Today, we'll look into how to fix hands, faces, and bodies using both the large and turbo models. We'll also be testing some new LoRAs, and there's a free workflow for you to try out as well. The new large and turbo models are available on Civit AI, and you'll find the links in the description below. Once you've downloaded these models, place them in the models UNet directory on your computer. I've also provided links for the clip models and VAE, which you'll find in the description. Download these as well, and save them in the corresponding folders. Clip models go in the models clip folder, and VAE files should go in the models VAE folder. With that set up, open Comfyui and drag the workflow file into it. The link to this workflow is also available in the description. The quantized model in this workflow lightens up the SD3.5 model significantly. I'm using the 8-bit quantized version, but you might prefer Q4 if you're on a lower-end PC. This workflow includes several essential sections. First, there's a model section for text-to-image generation, the hand refiner, then a face detailer, and finally, a body detailer. If you encounter any missing nodes after opening your workflow, just open the node manager, click Install Missing Nodes, select the missing ones, and proceed with installation. For those needing help with installing Comfyui, I've linked a video tutorial for that at the top. To test further, I've downloaded two LoRA models, the Chinese line art and the futuristic bronze-colored LoRA. You'll also need the SDXL Lightning RealVisXL V5 model, the Mesh Reformer model, and the face and body detailer models. The download links for both the Mesh Reformer and SDXL models are in the description. Once downloaded, place the Mesh Reformer in the custom nodes Comfyui, ControlNet-HandRefiner-pruned, checkpoints, HR16, ControlNet-HandRefiner-pruned folder, and the SDXL model in the Models Checkpoint folder. The remaining models can be installed directly from the Model Manager. For face restoration, go into the Model Manager, click Model Manager, search for GFP GAN, select the v1.4.pth version, and click Install. This one loads the face restore model. Then, search for YOLO V5i and click Install. This is for the face restore with model output node. Next, look up face YOLO V8MB box and click Install, followed by searching for the VIT-B-SAM model and clicking Install on that as well. Finally, search for and install the Person YOLO V8M model. It's clear that SD3.5 is still in its early stages, and further fine-tuning will continue to improve its performance. Stability has promised that control nets will be available by the 29th, so it's great to see development moving forward. However, today's focus is on what we can achieve with the SD3.5 model, rather than its limitations. This text-to-image workflow not only produces impressive images, but also helps resolve the recurring issues of distorted hands and tangled facial features. Let's walk through the workflow structure. The first part comprises the loaders, specifically the GGUF loader, triple clip loader, VAE loader, and the LoRA loader. I'm using both the large and turbo quantized models. For the clip loader, I'm using the improved Clip L for Flux, the Clip G model, and the Q4T5 quantized model. The VAE is the SD3.5 VAE, and the LoRAs include the Chinese line art and the futuristic bronze-colored LoRA. Moving on to the second part, the text-to-image group includes conditioning and the first pass of image generation. The next part of the workflow includes the detailers, specifically the tools to fix hands, faces, and bodies. For hand refinement, we're using ControlNet to apply a depth model. This is the SAI depth model, and there's a link to download it in the description. This is why we're working with an SDXL model here. Personally, I find the RealVisXL V5 Lightning model excellent. It's quick and provides relatively accurate results. I only wish I'd discovered it last year. We're also incorporating the Mesh Reformer hand refiner, which creates depth maps to rework distorted areas of the hand in the image. This model works through ControlNet, using the depth map as a reference to refine and regenerate the hand. Both positive and negative prompts will come directly directly from the main prompt. In the face refinement group, there are two main parts, the face restoration section and the face detailer section. The face restoration uses the GFP GAN V1.4 model and the YOLO V5i model to smooth out the image, and the output is sent to the face detailer, which adds finer details for a polished look. Next, we have the body refinement group, although this is less frequently needed. In most of the images I've generated, distortions have only appeared in the hands or face. Still, it's there as a backup in case you need it. Perhaps I'm just less creative with prompts than some of you might be. The final part of the workflow includes 3 before and after nodes, which take the refined images from each of the detailers and compare them to the initial image. Let's walk through a prompt and see how the image creation and refinement process works. I'll set the steps at 30 for the large model and 4 for the turbo model, with CFG at 4.5 for the large model and 1 for the turbo. For sampling, I'll use Euler, and the scheduler will be set to normal. Note that a higher CFG works well for artistic styles, whereas a lower CFG, around 3.5, produces more realistic images, though you do lose some prompt adherence when you lower the CFG. There's also an incredible tool on Hugging Face for generating SD3.5 prompts. It uses large language prompts, which makes prompt generation for SD3.5 models far easier. I'll return to this tool later on. For testing, I'll be using prompts with both the large and the turbo models. To keep things simple, I'll start with a basic prompt, close-up of a woman in a cozy cafe, standing by a vintage wooden counter, waving. You can select any style you like from the style selector, but I'll keep this as straightforward as possible for the initial test. To begin, make sure the detailer group is disabled, and then cue the prompt to generate an initial image. Here's what that looks like. Now let's try it with the turbo model. I wasn't expecting too much, considering it's only running at 4 steps, but the result is actually quite impressive. The hands aren't nearly as off as I thought they might be. Before I continue, remember to use the quantized model in the GGUF loader node. For this test, I'm using the triple clip loader with the improved clip L that I downloaded for Flux, the clip G model for clip 2, and the T5 quantized model as the third clip. Next, activate the fix hands group, ensuring that the SAI-XL depth 126 LoRA ControlNet is loaded. For the mesh conformer settings, keep the B-box padding at 30 and resolution at 1024. Use based on depth for the mask type. Set mask expand at 32 and leave both the detect threshold and presence threshold at 0.6. The model here is RealVisXL V5, as we don't yet have a depth control net for SD3.5. Keep clip skip at 1, the seed fixed, steps at 5 or 6, CFG at 2, the sampler at DPM++, SDE scheduler, Chaos, and denoise at 0.7. Positive and negative prompts will be pulled in automatically from the original prompt. Cue the task, and the hands are refined. Let's look at the 2 image switches at the top of the groups. The first switch is for toggling between the first pass image and the hand fix image. Imagine you've generated an image with the hands looking fine in the first pass, but you only want to adjust the face. In that case, simply set the switch to true and activate the fix face group. Doing this bypasses the hand fix group and sends the first pass image straight to the fix face group. The second switch operates similarly. Set it to true if you'd like to fix the body based on the first pass image, or leave it on false to pass the fix face image forward. Let's take the image we created earlier and refine the face. Begin by activating the fix face group. Ensure that the face restore model loader is set to GFP GAN V1.4 and that the face restore CF model is YOLO V5i, both of which we downloaded earlier. In the detailer, keep your guide size and max size at 1024, then activate the B-box and enable the noise mask. The steps, sampler, and scheduler should match those in the first pass with the K sampler. Set the denoise to 0.5. If you'd like more adjustments, raise it to around 0.6 or higher for greater changes in the face. Set the B-box threshold to 0.8, dilation to 10, and B-box factor to 1.5. Also, make sure to activate the ultralytics detector with the face YOLO 8M model. Then queue up the task. You'll see the final image reflects those face adjustments. If the results still aren't quite right, increase or decrease the denoise level as needed. Next, we'll move on to the body fix group. This group creates a mask of the subject's entire body, adding more detail. Start by activating it and checking that the SAM VIP-B01 model is selected for the SAM loader node. Then select the Person YOLO V8 model in the Ultralytics detect below. I'll set the denoise a bit higher at 0.7, adjust the detection hint to horizontal 2, and set the threshold at 0.6. When you queue up this setup, you'll notice subtle enhancements in the body details, which really stand out with low-quality images. At the end of the workflow, you have options to compare the different refinements. You can check the difference between the first pass and the hand fix, first pass and face fix, and first pass and body fix adjustments. This brings us to a critical question. Why use all these steps just to generate an image? The truth is, you only need these tools when the image calls for it. If an image looks good straight out of the first pass, then it's good. But occasionally, you get that almost perfect image that needs just a little refinement, and that's when these nodes come in handy. Remember, hand fix can be hit or miss, but it may improve as new control nets become available. Let's try out two new LoRAs recently released by Shaker Labs. They're the Chinese line art LoRA and the futuristic bronze-colored LoRA. We'll start by using the bronze LoRA. Add it to the LoRA loader and make sure its weight is set to 1. The trigger word here is futuristic bronze-colored, so we'll want to include that in our prompt. For this test, I'll be using the turbo model. The prompt I'll go with is a samurai in ancient Japan in a fighting stance, holding a sword, and of course, we'll add the trigger word futuristic bronze-colored. Before starting, make sure all the other groups are bypassed except for the text to image group, then queue it up. If you saw the previous video, I mentioned how good SD3.5 is at following art prompts. This is a great example of that. The results look really impressive here. Let's switch over to the large model now. This result doesn't quite match the example images on the hugging face page, but it still has an interesting look. For the second LoRA, disable the bronze one and add Chinese line art. Keep the weight at 1 for this one as well. The prompt here will be a Jedi with a lightsaber, followed by the trigger word Chinese line art. The turbo model seems to be struggling with this, but the large model performs much better, capturing more of that line art look. Let's test how well it handles prompt adherence, using the large model again. You might remember the tool I mentioned on hugging face. Let's add the following prompt there. A close-up of a cybernetic robot with a white Japanese kabuki mask, pointing its human-like hand, palm facing the camera. Copy and paste the enhanced descriptive prompt, then queue it up. This result doesn't quite match the prompt exactly, as there's no sign of the kabuki mask. Perhaps with a few more attempts, we'd see better accuracy, but it's still a solid image. I'll link to this tool in the description below. I had hoped to include a large language model prompt generator in this, but I'm still searching for one that doesn't rely on Ollama or an API. There is one I'm testing right now, so I'll keep you posted. You may have noticed the style selector here. This uses the focus styles. Let's try it out by prompting a Space Marine from Warhammer 40k and selecting 3D on the style selector. The result we get is exactly that, a 3D style image of a Space Marine. It's impressive, especially since this was done in just 4 steps. My impression so far is that the turbo model doesn't seem to favor lengthy, highly descriptive prompts, while the regular large model handles medium-length descriptive prompts much better. For the final test, let's see how it manages with text prompts. Using the turbo model, I'll try a Gundam robot holding a box with SD3.5 written in bold letters and the word wordplay below. I'll add fantasy style in the style selector. As expected, the turbo model struggles with the longer prompt, which shows in the results, even though they're still visually appealing after only 4 steps. The SD3.5 model is a bit of an enigma. With the standard large model, you can expect prompt adherence at 30 to 40 steps, but the turbo model is a bit of a gamble. Sometimes you get a hit, sometimes a miss. This brings us to the elephant in the room. I know there's some disappointment around this model, with some users going as far as to call SD3.5 mid. To put it simply, this is a base model, and in the world of stable diffusion, the community never rests. So, it might be worth giving it a week or 2 to see what develops. In the meantime, you can use these tools to get a feel for SD3.5 and experiment with its unique prompt responses. To be honest, SD3.5 doesn't come close to Flux, especially Flux 1.1 Pro, but it does have a more flexible license and it's not restricted. The future of SD3.5 really lies with the community, and I'm confident that with time, the community will produce some fantastic models from it. Like and subscribe for more videos and free goodies. See you next time.